Alright, welcome to the new thing. Tonight we're going to start reading from a book of poetry I wrote called Poetry Travels. This was finished in March of this year. I don't know when it was started. Looks like a sort of a, I don't know, it's not really a children's notebook, but it's, one of these notebooks you buy that's all, no, I'm sorry, it's one of these journals that you buy that's all fanciful with, light decorations on each page to encourage you to put your thoughts down and feel happy about doing so. Anyway, this is not titled. This is the first piece in this book. Devilish soap, the knitting alley. They say that when you meditate you should face a blank wall, and when you write poems you shouldn't be facing a wall laden with books. But here I am, not meditating, facing a torrent of faces in Margaret Atwood. The Anteater Antaeus, Daniel Halpern, meant a lot to me at one time. How did he decide on the cover art to his books? I've tried meditating. Recklessly painted room. How to reconcile my painting with my poems? I haven't written real poetry in a long time. When I decided to become a painter, I had a friend tell me that I was wasting my greatest talent, writing. But the camel is a penis upside down. The paperbacks are coated like spies. I've read that before. Alright, this is called Pacifist Apartment House. Aperture of the dependent. I am waiting to call my wife. To be an adult is to be one's own parent. But there is a measure of parental need in the spousal relationship. Would Bogart really disapprove? Paul Blackburn, meet Jesse Brillstein. He meant the bulk chalk lines on a Hallmark card outlet football field. I remember Kerouac. I remember Sally Field. This is called No Delicacy in the Abode. So that it begins about Bratagonese, a multiplicity of codes for one publisher, and then he felt better. This is called Bug Juicer Sub Request. They took my cane away, and now I have to twist my words around to get them to support something I didn't have to carry before. Where am I carrying it to? Will I be able to bear myself up during those special times of caffeine and desperate activity? Why don't you type it out? Prepositions are the most important words. This is called My Cameo. The judgment of familiarity. Rework your opinions in your attic room. The arrangement, you said, that was what mattered. That and your suffering. In time I came to judge myself more harshly than you ever could. Had you but known. Not that you were part of this, but that formality. How did they stand it? The right word in the right place. I like that better than it doesn't scan. This is called Poor Animation. Get on your stationary bike, stationary store, the more and all the more in antecedents and anniversary racks of cards. Get well and get on into the wall or out the window. Marketing myself again for the first time. Rewrites and jumping from frame to frame within a static, ill-fitting cell. This is called Finally Working at a Bank. It pains me like it pains the wood or paints the wood. I'm sorry. It pains me like it God damn it. It pains me like it pains the wood or paints the woods to conform these intrusive eyelashes on a 5-day weekend and twitching eyelids to continue in meaningful form. What has been begun, so, do you remember Revco? They had comic books there and they were 35 cents. This is called Step by Step. I did not like the new one. I circled first, the last, fancy that this funky fatalistic fast, the arrangement is part of the charm, idiosyncratic and random as it is, and yet nobody can define any of it. This one has no title. Hesitated in the 18th century for what we now feel to be Tommy's greatest triumph, yet singular for all that the 19th century could not supply. I glimmered on glue-bended cardboard structures, bored by the same people, and yet afraid in my old way to travel on to another era. If I could only hold in my hand or pocket an encapsulation pleasant. This is also not titled. Keep the bathroom cold, and don't call it a bathroom if it doesn't contain a bathtub. Keep the toilet and bathtub in separate rooms anyway. The Japanese way is best. The Europeans complain that the doors and walls in American public toilets don't go all the way to the floor. Makes you wonder. If I hadn't been circumcised, would I be less reluctant to display my penis to other men, to go nude in public? I took a shit next to an old man in Key West. This is untitled as well. Separate your politics from your popular culture commentary. The guy on the cover is dead. I was just researching him the other day. The last few weeks. Subjective coincidence. Now what will happen to Danny DeVito? Or Devo for that matter? Oh, the magical, wonderful happens. Only it doesn't get me out of the hole. It doesn't make things any easier. Unite your left fingers with your right ones. This is untitled. Printed old man bent his back and the corners of his pages somewhere in a language foreign to his grandparents' household. He unbarred the door when doors were barred, no holds. He always wondered what that meant and why he wasn't supposed to write all the way out here to the margins in something called a poem. Untitled. Ministerial code hastily jotted down, as are all of these so-called poems. I don't know what the big deal is. If I went over them a second time and cleaned them up and moved things around, then I think they'd be more acceptable to you. But maybe they're not poems at all. A subdivision of poetry, but not poems as such. I mean, what is a warrant officer? All right, I think we're going to end with this one. Okay. This is called Margarine at World's End. I've got you. I've got you now. I've got you at last. No such thing, but yet here I am without internet access and yet wondering how did people 50 years ago deal with it? Those little rooms, those charming illustrations, it's like wondering how one does without pot. We called everything butter in those days. All right, another one. This is called Humble Figure Toes. The bleach in the bowl may rise in Mr. Bubble for fingers or noses of perversity and spot my pants with trouser vitiligo. Tinnitus comes but once, a Santa Clausality for a green-headed cotton swab, tootled and twirled with canary-like delicacy. Oh, it tasted sweet, but I won't make the outdated reference. Now you need the rhythm and the repetition. Swore like a rocket, wore it like sock. Swore like a rocket, wore it like a sock. Alright, we're going to end there, and I'll see you all later.